Yep, thank you very much, Derek, for joining me today. Really appreciate that. And Derek, can you please tell a little bit about yourself and about the company you're working for?
Sure. Thanks. Thanks for having me, Dennis. So yeah, my name's Derek Smith. I'm the head of higher education at UIPath, Australia and New Zealand. I'm based out of Brisbane. I've been with UIPath for 3 years now, or just over 3 years. My job now is to help universities and institutions within the higher education sector get the most from their investments in automation, specifically in the UiPath platform and related products. So yeah, my role is to help universities get value from their automation programs. You know, UiPath started off in 2000. You're going to test me now. I hope our founder doesn't see this. I think it was about 2005, 2006. Just a group of developers in Romania, started off by a guy called Daniel Dinez, who is now the richest man in Romania due to the success of UiPath. We're up to around 5,000 staff globally now. And really that growth has come in the last 5 years, where I've been with the business since late 2018. I was employee number 1,500 and something, and we're 5,000 people already. So look, the success has kind of been driven by the strength of the platform versus other competitive platforms. And it started off as just a simple automation tool, and it's become a platform rather than just bots that automate mundane and repetitive tasks. So we're able to help customers decide what processes they should be automating, because that's quite a resource intensive task. So working out which processes to automate, working out what the return on investment would be if you did automate them. So we've got tools like process mining, task mining, and task capture to do that. Then we've got the classic bots. So they come in two flavors. So you've got unattended bots, which sit on a virtual machine, in the background doing processes based upon a trigger or a time of day. You've then got attended bots, which we refer to them as a digital assistant. So they live on somebody's desktop. So I don't know if you imagine you come into work and you have to run a couple of reports and email those out to someone for them to get on with their work. How about if you turned up, you switch your laptop on, you hit a button, you walk away, grab a coffee, come back, and those reports have been generated, run and emailed out to people. That's a really common use case for the digital co-worker or digital assistant, the attended bots. And then we've got other areas of the technology like AI center, where things like document understanding, where we're pulling data from a semi-structured or unstructured source. So a really common use case and popular one, I've just been on a call with a customer, is around extracting data from and validating COVID certificates. So a lot of the universities are mandating that staff and students must be fully vaccinated before they're allowed on campus. So that is for a lot of universities is tens of thousands of documents that they've got no existing process, no existing people to validate. We've got a pre-built model already out the box, ready to go. You could have that, a customer could have that up and running in days, and saving days and days and days of people's time from just that repetitive, mundane COVID certification validation.
Yeah,
So yeah,
that
that's just
sounds
two examples.
amazing. So it saves probably like thousands of hours. And
Absolutely. So if you imagine, so today you've got to prove your double vax. So universities 40 to 50,000 times. Those documents have got to be opened, checked, and then somewhere in a database that you have to say this person is double vax. And what about the next requirement? So at some point, I'm sure you'll need to prove you've got a booster shot. So again, that will be going through exact same process again. And that technology then, well, we got that tech now. So why don't we look at doing validation of identification. So, for example, with the universities that I'm working with, when they have a student go through the admissions process, they have to prove, their citizenship, maybe their address through a utility bill. And again, these are all documents that have to be processed with data pulled out of them. So, once that tech's in, it's really easy to build the next use case. And again, we've got those pre-built models that can extract this data from those sorts of documents.
Sounds awesome. Look, Derek, question like more maybe like mid technical, let's say. So as far as I concern, as far as I understand the RPA products such as UiPath, this goes on top of the system. So it's taken like you're developing kind of the bots, right, which are simulating the user actions. Mm-hmm. How is that different from the, let's say, the system integration?
Really, really good question, and this is one that is very commonly asked. So, I would love to say that our toolkit is the answer to every question. My job is to help people use more of it. But I've got to be pragmatic and honest that it's part of at the risk of using a marketing buzz phrase, it's part of a digital transformation suite. So, when I'm speaking to customers, the question I'm asked a lot is, which tool do we use when, Derek? It's different for every customer, but ultimately, if there is something within a core application, an extra module or some bespoke code, that is the most elegant solution you can build. However, that could take months, quite often years, to either replace the system or to build something bespoke. Meanwhile, you could have an RPA solution built inside a month, typically. So what a lot of customers do will use a bot for 2 to 3 years, whilst they're changing the underlying system, and ultimately they'll turn those bots off and reuse the software for something else. So that's one thing. Then the next level down is API functionality. So again, if you've got a couple of applications that have really good, strong existing API connections, it's a really elegant solution too. We'd recommend you consider doing that. But again, what if there's no API between these systems? What if access to the API is difficult? What if there is an API but you haven't got it yet? It's really expensive. Okay, we've got to tweak the API. It's going to take a year to tweak. So all these considerations have to be factored in. And again, you could deploy a bot in a month. If you imagine that the process you're looking to automate, if by automating it you're going to save 10,000 hours worth of people's time, then you want to do that, right? And then in the meantime, whilst you build value and the longer term solution. So it absolutely fits within an overall transformation strategy. One of the latest pieces of tech, we made an acquisition of an API company around 12 to 18 months ago. So the ability now, UIPath, the UI stands for user interface. So like a human being, looks at a screen and pulls data from it. That's traditionally how RPA bots work. But with these API connectors now, with things like PeopleSoft, the Microsoft Suite, Oracle, Dynamics, all of the key SAP, Salesforce, all of these key applications. Everything. So rather than building those, the user interface based bots, connected via an API makes it much quicker to build, much more resilient, because one of the concerns people have about automating using RPA is that if the underlying application changes, they'll have to tweak the bot. So by connecting via the back end or the NAPI, if you like, makes that much more resilient, much more flexible, and more viable tool for customers. So yeah, that's why we talk about a platform now rather than just bots, because there's so much we can do in this space now.
Sounds good. That explains a lot. Truly, sometimes it takes a lot of time to develop the proper integration solution, and it's also required highly qualified professionals. And by the way, there's another question then. How difficult is it to develop a bot using UiPath?
So look, again, I think this is something I learned as I've gone on my automation journey. So I would say it's easy to get started. So all of our training is free and online, awesome. From a citizen developer right through to advanced developer. I've got a really nice story with a university customer. This was going back to 2020 during COVID times, and they had to complete a PDF form for thousands of staff. Um, and I had a call on a Friday afternoon from that customer, and they said, "Oh, Derek, can you do this? Can you pull data from a database application, insert it into a PDF form, and save that to a predetermined
Mm-hmm.
location?" Like, sure we can. We can build a proof of concept. When would you like it by? Monday.
Monday.
So I
Yesterday.
write exactly right, the classic customer requirement, right? So I spoke to the guy, our pre-sales engineers, and just they're all maxed out. I said, look, I can do it early next week, but we can't do it today. So we just launched our citizen development tool at that point, Studio X, we call it
Mm-hmm.
internally. So the sales guy, me, built a bot inside 3 hours that pulled data
That's
from a
amazing. Yeah.
database, populated the PDF, and saved in a location, and repeat. So it could churn through all of those. I think it was 5,000 forms. Churn through those in a couple of days, based upon 3 hours worth of work from this idiot.
Cool.
So it's very simple to do. So we have really mature system development programs now,
Mm-hmm.
which we, again, at the university space is red hot. That they're really interested in it. And there'll be a video use case coming out soon. I'm not gonna steal my own thunder. Watch out for that on YouTube, people. And so look, then we go right through to the advanced developer. So if you are building an automation that is going to be productionized, that is going to go into, to be used in an enterprise scenario,
Mm-hmm.
it has to be bulletproof. You have to have fallback. So if the bot hits a situation where it's not expecting, you have to build that into the workflow. So it hands those cases back off to a human being to pick up that exception management. So typically a complex bot will be built in 4 to 6 weeks. If you compare that to building bespoke code,
Yeah.
it's 4 to 6 months or longer. So the time to value is an absolute key benefit of this technology. But again, I want to be very clear that it's easy to learn, but probably harder to master, I think, is the way to do it. But yeah, all the resources are there. They're all free,
Mm-hmm.
and we urge you to go to UiPath Academy for those training
That's
courses.
awesome. That's actually another thing why when we decided on the RPA tool, we went with the UiPath, because you got pretty strong documentation, quite good support. So not quite good, really awesome support from the team. Yeah, that's look, from what I hear, that sounds that the RPA tool, like a UiPath, is more for enterprise businesses. But would a smaller business benefit from such a tool, and how?
Yeah, look, and I think that's a conversation you and I had when we first met a few years ago about scale. So, um, look, the bigger the organization, the more people you've got doing the same task,
Mm-hmm.
the more value there is in releasing their time to go and do something more valuable. So, when we're speaking to heads of digital transformation, with things like the Great Resignation happening at the moment, where holding on to staff is so key because they're so hard to replace.
Mm-hmm.
Um, teams are maxed out with capacity. You hear about staff being under increased mental pressure
Yeah.
because of the amount of workload. If you can take 5% of that workload away, to let them focus on the more important work, to get home on time, to work on tasks that are more interesting, more valuable, they're more likely to stay with their
Mm-hmm.
employer.
Yeah.
So that's the driver behind why people are looking to automate, and that's relevant in a small organization or a large organization. You will get more, if your way of measuring an outcome is hours back, then of course you're going to get a better return on investment in that case at a large
Mm-hmm.
organization. However, if you can't get the staff in a small organization, or there's a couple of team members that you want to free up their time to work on more valuable work, it can still absolutely be relevant. Depends on how you build that automation. And the other tools like the citizen development, and for not for profits, and for very small SMEs, I think it's under $1 million US dollars turnover. The software is free to use. You can use the community
Oh,
edition
really?
and use the software yourself.
Nice.
So there is absolutely a play for for smaller organizations as well.
So that's the only payment for the developers. Sounds like. So you're
Yeah,
paying the
and
developers
don't forget
direct.
all the training is online and free, so you can
Yeah.
teach yourselves, right? So
Mm.
yeah.
And by the way, yeah, and you said that the UiPath providing the such service as developing the boats for customers, right?
No,
So
so
they
that
could.
would be more of a partner role. So we're
I
here
see.
to provide the software, provide assurance services. The in almost every circumstance, we encourage our partner network
Mhm.
to deliver those services. It just gives more scale to customers, and we couldn't we've got over 10,000 customers now,
Uh-huh.
and there's just no way we could get around them all. We'll be limiting the value to the customer and slowing our own growth.
Mhm. I see. Could you please list a few partners, maybe in Brisbane, so people
Oh,
can
yeah,
look?
absolutely,
Or no?
absolutely. That's no. So let me name.
Okay.
So as a Queenslander, an adopted Queenslander,
Mhm.
let me name the Queensland-based partners that we'd work with, and um, you know, we've got 140 partners in Australia. The big,
Don't
the
list all of them, please.
no. So look, we've got all the big global brands that you would expect, but one of the partners who, particularly in the early days, Blackbook
Mhm.
AI, they are synonymous with UiPath and automation in the Queensland market. Working really closely with the guys there. So there's some of the newer partners like Intrago who have come from a ServiceNow background, have
Mhm.
want to extend the value to their customers by using UiPath for automation. Another organization I'm working with recently, BDS, they are part Aboriginal or part indigenously owned. So for a lot of government organisations, that's a really attractive value prop for them as well. So they're the Queens, the key Queensland-based,
Nice.
born and bred in Queensland. Intelligent Pathways, another one. We've done work with those guys. So guys, if they're all forgotten, please don't
Uh,
crucify me.
that's very nice how your partner network are growing, because yeah, previously I reckon that like a few years ago there was only the black book
Yeah.
who were
Yeah,
providing
yeah,
the.
and
Yeah.
they say that all of the other partners who've maybe based in other cities but have presence and
Mhm.
resources and customers up in Queensland. Yeah, so please, apologies if I forgot anyone. This is not rehearsed. This is all ad hoc off the cuff.
Yeah,
So
that's
please don't kill me,
those
guys.
rehearsals. Yeah. And probably the final question, so I won't take much of your time. I know that you're a super busy person who is not only selling, managing, but also developing the boats. So yeah.
Not
What
very often, Dennis. Not very often.
what do you think that the post-COVID, and like I reckon that we're still in the COVID market, is there more demand for the RPA solutions in this market, or how?
Yeah, look, I think so. So it was really, uh, I'll say interesting, but I'm not sure it's the right word. So look, the first 3 to 6 months of the pandemic, where we had lockdowns from
Mhm.
March 2020, um, everything just stopped because everybody was just trying to keep their businesses running. So it's a case of work out how can we get people working from home productively,
Mhm.
how can we get network connectivity to all these remote locations, and there was 6 months of right big pause button. We just need to get our businesses straight and understand how we're going to do business. So then from that point, from towards the end of 2020, people realised that automation could help them. So where you had issues with staff who are ill or staff who couldn't get to work, filling that capacity gap. If we look at higher education, I think 17,000 staff were effectively made redundant across the sector because international students weren't coming, weren't
Yeah.
paying fees. So you have this massive capacity gap of work. The universities, still had a lot of domestic students to look after, online students to look after. So a lot of those tasks still had to be done. But but they had, they just have fewer staff and few less money to pay for these tasks to be done.
Mhm.
So a lot of the universities have turned to automation, which is kind of what drove my new role as head of higher ed. As really adding value to that sector. And you can absolutely say similar stories across all of the sectors. I mentioned the COVID use case earlier.
Mhm.
Any organisation that has had to change processes, for extra cleaning, welfare checks on staff. There's a whole host of new things organisations have had to do where they don't have an application built to do this stuff. They don't have a process built
Mhm.
where automation can absolutely help them solve those problems.
Sounds great. Sounds great. Uh, Thank you very much, Derek. I really appreciate
No,
your
thank you.
time. I think that, yeah, we covered almost everything. Yep, thank you very much. And if someone from, let's say, the education sector see this video and decide that, oh, yeah, we need the UI path, can they contact you and ask you a few questions?
I would love to speak. I'm not even not even higher ed. So look, I look after higher
Mhm.
ed, but my previous role was looking after a lot of the enterprise and government customers
Mhm.
just in Queensland. So if we can't help directly, we've got a network of partners who would love to help. So yeah, look, Derek DEREK.smith@uipath.com. Drop me a note, and I will be delighted to help directly or point you in the right direction.
Sounds good. Thank you very much, Derek. And I also provide all your contacts I got under this video. So
Awesome.
yeah, it will be there. Thank you very much again and have a great afternoon.
Cool. And you, Dennis, thanks very
Thank
much
you very
for
much.
your
See
time.
you. See you.
Cool.